It's the same thing when I look into the future. I remember the future. I remember this thing that's coming. I remember it. We are going through a global shift. This was predicted by so many different cultures. When I really surrendered and gave over to a spiritual life, that's when it got interesting. I just know things about dead people. There's a huge difference of chasing versus receiving. My own inner technology is greater than I know, and that my job is to detach from the conditioned self. I realize that I get the same information where I write music from, where I get intuitive information from. So it all comes from the same channel, sound, harmonics, things like that. Were able to keep me sane.
I'd like to welcome to the show Colette Baron-Reid. How you doing, Colette?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be on your show. Thank you for letting me come on Zoom. I couldn't come to where you are, but next time there'll be one.
Not a problem at all. Thank you so much for being here. I'm looking forward to our conversation. Your work and your background and what you do is fascinating. So the question I always ask of psychic mediums and of channelers who come on the show is, what was your life
Yeah.
like before the
Oh,
insanity, the chaos that is being a psychic medium came into your
yeah.
life? Because as I always say, there's easier hustles in the world.
Oh,
To
hell.
do a to be a public psychic medium is a very different thing
Oh,
than to be at a carnival that nobody knows who you are. But being
right.
public, writing books, being on shows, being on network
Yeah.
television, do all this kind of stuff, it's easier hustles out there. So I want to
Yes.
ask.
Oh my
So,
God. Oh
so
my
what was your
goodness.
life
Yeah.
like before all came crashing
So,
down?
yeah. So, which it did, by the way, too. It's kind of like everything I wanted to get off the ground went somewhere else, and this kept showing up. But so I always had this though. So I would say to you that when I was a little kid, I had access to this information about people that I shouldn't have. Like, how would I know this? Even my mom would say, like, how would you know that that phone call would happen? Because I just blurt things out that meant nothing to me. That would mean a lot to everybody else, would be like really quiet, like, what did you just say? Kind of thing, right?
Hmm.
When I so I had this. So this messed with my life before it became a profession, right? So when I was little, I kept having these recurring nightmares about people who were really skinny lined up at a table. And then there was this very skeletal looking man crying, and there were teeth, and then there was a pile of gold. And I knew there were teeth because I think I was like 3 or 4, because I'd already lost some teeth, and I already knew about the tooth fairy, and I know what they looked like. So I knew there were teeth and gold. And then I thought I had a terrible smell. I remember the smell was gross. And then it was snowing, this kind of dirty snow. And then I saw people being shoved in an easy bake oven. We had an easy
Oh,
bake oven, right? So my mom would not pick me up at that dream. She would like anytime I wanted to crawl in bed with my mom when I had a nightmare, it would be okay. I'll come here, boom, boom, boom. But I could tell there was something different when I dreamt like that, and she was like not really wanting to hold me or whatever. Like, go back to bed, you're fine, kind of thing, right? So fast forward, sorry. So I also understood that there was something wrong, right? That there was something dangerous about this access, and I didn't know what it meant because nobody told me. So let's go fast forward 20 odd years or 25 years after my parents had lost everything in a deal. My dad was a land developer. My mom had a bit to drink. And I was raised, by the way, Christian, Anglican, like, that's Catholic with no pope. So, and I loved it. I went to church every Sunday. I was like totally a church. I wanted to be a nun, and I went to a Catholic school, and then my mom yanked me out of that. Well, it turns out my grandfather on her side was a Sephardic Jew, and he was part of the French resistance movement and was picked up at her door by SS officers who was taken in because her mom had died. She was hit by a bomb in Berlin, and she was hidden in this family, I guess a Christian family, because there was more than a drop of Jewish blood in her, right? So, and she said, "Take that," because I had a cross on. She bought me. She had a few too much to drink. "Take that thing off." And I went, "Why? You bought it for me. It's beautiful." She goes, "Because you're Jewish." And I'm like, "What?" but apparently, my mother's mother wasn't Jewish. So according to Jewish, I'm not, because I went and did all this genealogy stuff after and all this stuff. And anyway, that said, she had felt so guilty because but that's what I dreamt. Like the point is that he was killed in Dachau in a concentration camp, right? He was picked up
Hmm.
and killed there. So all those dreams, she goes, those dreams you had, then that's what it's about. And I'm like, whoa. Then that was the end of that, right? So this is like 20 years later, I realized like, oh, okay. But everything, right? So this is what I tuned into because my mom was in Berlin during the war. Their parents were not married. Her mom was kind of like a bit of a flapper or whatever, apparently, and slept with this guy who happened to be this French Jew, got pregnant. My mom was born, and the rest is history. But then I tracked it all down. But the point is that I'm only 3 or 4 years old and I'm dreaming about the Holocaust.
Mm.
Like, so over the years, information that I would pick up about people just made me feel like I didn't know where I ended and everybody else began. So I would love to be able to say, oh, I was just fine until one day I just got in a car accident and boom, there it was. No, I was never totally fine. Okay. I didn't have one of those experiences. I had a constant me not being quite right, never fitting anywhere. I always believe I didn't fit in anywhere. And I found myself trying to be just whoever I was supposed to be. And so I never felt safe my whole life, right? It just felt like, who am I? Like, what is this? Fortunately, my dad, like both my parents were amazing people. I just want to say this. My father was an extraordinary man. And more so now, I recognize what an incredible experience I had growing up with him because as soon as we could basically read or I could hear, my dad would sit us down, me and my sister, and tell us all about Aristotle and Atlantis and Plato and all this. I just wanted to play with my gerbils, but this was what he wanted for us, right? So I would sit and listen. But most important that hit me was him telling us all about the aliens, right? And who really engineered human beings, etc. My dad was just all matter of fact, okay, matter of fact. And so I was like, I grew up matter of fact. I was 8 years old. We lived in the West Indies for a while. He was a land developer. And I got up in the middle of the night with my dad, and we saw the formations in the sky. You just get up, let's go see, right? And then one day we saw one go right into the ocean. So it's like, and also when I was little, same kind of just a year before, I'd had these weird visitations. Like I know I'm kind of pushing everything. You asked me about what happened before I became this, right? So this is
Well,
all
you're pre when you start before you
pre
came out of the
me.
closet. So when you're talking about the alien kind of thing, you're talking about the
Yeah,
Anunnaki, which is based in the Sumerian text and it's
potentially,
historical. Yeah, yeah,
but
it's a
we don't
lot of
know.
that.
It's a
Right, of
lot of that.
course.
It's a
It's a
lot
lot
of
of
that.
that.
But we really don't know 100% who it is
Of
or what
course.
it is.
Yeah, of course, of course.
But yes, I'm going to say yes because he was friends with somebody named Eric von Däniken. And so this is
Oh.
when right?
Yeah,
Chariots of
yeah,
the Gods, he used to do slideshows. So
sure.
there I am. I couldn't have been more than, I don't know, whatever it came out in the 60s. I would go with my dad religiously, and we would sit there and look at all these slideshows. And yes, at that time, that's what he called it. But we know that there are many more
Different versions of
I
yeah.
would say
Yeah.
extra dimensionals, because I'll tell you all about how I channeled my latest Oracle deck was totally from another dimension. But so this was kind of made me feel safe that, okay, I know something's there. It just became part of my understanding that this is what the world is. The world is more than what the world is, and that there's so much to uncover. And he was going to go find Atlantis and flew to the Bermuda Triangle and all this stuff. My dad was I got indoctrinated in all this growing up, but he was a very sober guy too. Like he was not he wasn't a conspiracy guy. He was just like, well, these are really interesting things we should learn about. Right. So it was fascinating. But so that was there, but I was supposed to be a lawyer, you see. So knowing all of this, and also, like being exposed to all of this and having the dreams I had and having this ability that I have, well, we're not having that. We're going to law school because they're immigrants. My parents, my dad was Serbian. He loved telling us that we were direct descendants of Genghis Khan because my great grandmother was Mongolian. So it was like that was his, oh, he was like proud of Genghis Khan and he'd show us the boxes. It's like so,
it sounds very Big Fat Greek Wedding, the father always saying that
yes.
he was related to Alexander the Great. Yes, or something like that.
Right, right. But I think like, but actually I found out because later in life when I started after they died and I started looking at trying to understand a little bit more about Mongolian history,
Oh
apparently it
yeah.
was very common for all Mongolians to say
Yes.
that they were direct descendants of Genghis Khan because they saw Genghis Khan as a god,
Well, also
right?
genetically, he actually spread his seed to 10% of the population. There's
Right.
so many
So
offspring. I mean,
many, right?
he had hundreds of children, like hundreds of children,
Hundreds and hundreds, right?
hundreds
So
of, yeah.
yeah,
He did his part.
he did his part, exactly, especially in the Balkans where my dad
Yeah.
was from, right? So, and I'm, after doing all my DNA, I'm 90% or 80% Balkan Slav, right? So anyhow, so there was all this, so there was these kind of mixed messages. And the interesting thing too is when I was young, I think I was 12 or 13. No, when I was much younger, I remember my Mrs. Kelly was my nanny, and she was from Scotland. And so my parents would go out, and she had a really old lady. I don't know. She'd croak like a frog. She had something wrong with her esophagus. She smelled funny. She always had violet candies in her mouth, and she had like one of these little tight perms. And she made us eat this horrible soup she made. However, but she told my mother one day that I had this sight. Now, I know we are not allowed to make the accents anymore because it's cultural appropriation, but I used to make a really great Scottish accent, right? So I won't do it now. But anyway, she was telling my mother, oh, your daughter has this sight. And I remember being in the swinging door from the dining room into the kitchen. And my mom, I'm hearing her saying, no, 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 no. We're not going to, no, my mother was not happy about that. And I was really confused because everybody in the family wore glasses. And I thought that meant I didn't need glasses if
Mm.
I have sight, right? Like you have this,
Hmm.
why is she mad? Wear glasses. This is how I equated it all this. But this lady would have her friends over. She read cards and my mom would go out. She was a psychic. So she would have her friends over. And I kept seeing all this energy when her little old lady friends would come over and she would read playing cards, right? And I remember seeing this energy that was palpable in the room. And I was so attracted to it. And she knew that I could see things and, encouraged me, etc. But again, these are my memories are like really choppy and you're not going to have a whole life story on your show here. But fast forward to my father teaching me how to read Turkish coffee cups. So
Mm.
my dad, and even though the same man wants me to be a lawyer, right, teaches me how to read
Wow.
Turkish coffee cups, right? So I'm like
Like the
right into
coffee
that.
grounds, like the
Yeah,
coffee
yeah, yeah.
grounds, like you're reading.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like so
Yeah.
it's Turkish coffee and you have to boil it in a samovar and then you read
Mm.
the grounds at the end after you turn it over. It's a little bit like tasseomancy.
Hmm.
It is tasseomancy, but it's not with tea. So he taught me about spirit animals because in the Slavic tradition, they have spirit animals. It's not indigenous North American. They have them in many cultures. So the first
Oh
time
yeah.
I ever heard of spirit animals was from my Serbian father. So to me, it was always relative to Slavic folklore and nothing to do with North American, where I live, right? So from Canada, he'd never met anybody like that. So I would watch how the formation would go, and I was really good at it. After he had died, his oldest friends told me because it was such a thing that I wasn't supposed to do this, etc. And I had many years of a lot of hardship, which I'll go back to in a second. But they had told me that I came by my gift from my father, and that the fact that he taught me how to read Turkish coffee cups when my mother wasn't looking was such a big thing because apparently when my parents were newly married, my father would read people's coffee cups at their cocktail parties. And one day he went into a trance and started telling this story about these people who were having an affair that were married to different people who were in the party at my parents' house. And then he came back. I didn't remember he said a thing, and my mother threatened to divorce him if he ever did it again. So apparently, yeah, so it was like, you are not going to do this thing you do ever, ever. it's verboten, right? Right.
And also, but
And
also in that time period when you were coming up, this is something that was not spoken
very
about.
fringy.
Yeah, you
No.
don't speak about this publicly. You definitely don't like make a business out of it. That's insane.
Oh God, no.
You know, no, no.
I'll move to that. No, I mean, and also, God forbid, I mean, I went to a private girls' school. My parents worked hard to give us the kind of privilege or the leg up, even though I was certainly reminded that I'm not really Canadian since my parents were immigrants, but
Mhm.
my name was titled, so we got in anyway because it was a title. But you know, going into law school, they were afraid. I think that they were afraid, and rightly so. But I just wanted to be in music. So I kept running away from home with a guitar. Like, and for me, and it was interesting since then, of course, I've had a music career, but I realized that I get the same information where I write music from, where I get intuitive information from. So it all comes from the same channel, sound, harmonics, things like that were able to keep me sane. But I did have one of those not NDA, NDE kind of things, experiences when I'm not going to go into detail on this, but I'll just say this, that there was a big violent episode that happened to me
Mm.
when I was 19 years old. And I look back on that, and yes, I was a victim of this thing, but I had to take many years to realize I was not a victim, but that I was victimized. But I left my body during the experience and went to like the upper right, to my upper right. And that's where I get now I can move outside of myself. Like one would say that was a psychotic break that I had while that was happening. But now, afterwards, after that all settled down and I actually started doing this for a living, which was a few years later, I go there now. Like that's where I go to get my information. I just walk away from Colette. I'm not part of me anymore, and I'm over there. So that horrible initiation that I went through with the loss of the ability to say no, etc., enabled me to get a gift later. So, and in the in between, I became an alcoholic and a drug addict. So for me, all that escapism, and that's actually interestingly enough too, when I had all my experiences with plant medicine,
Mhm.
which was the only thing that worked for me during that time to make me feel okay. But I was just really trying to hurt myself, right? And then I
Sure.
got clean and sober when I was 27, and that's when it all started. It's when I cleaned up everything and I completely devoted myself to a spiritual path. Like I surrendered, like I should be dead, seriously.
Mm.
You know,
Mhm.
that was when cocaine was not apparently addictive in the 80s.
No,
No, no, hey, no, it wasn't.
no. It's like a
But
Tylenol. It's like a Tylenol. It's
oh
like a
yeah, I was
Tylenol.
just like, everybody did it,
Yeah.
and most people died. Actually, most of my friends or the people I hung out with are, well, there's a few smattering, but there was a lot of people who are dead now. But anyway, so I came out the other side of that. And when I really surrendered and gave over to a spiritual life, that's when it got interesting. That's
Mm.
when, with nothing, like completely clean. I've been clean and sober now for 39 years
Mm.
at our taping. But the spiritual downloads came when I surrendered, with the caveat that please make me be a successful singer-songwriter. And then I'm like, and I'm just going to do this part-time, this thing that I can do, because it's like, I just like people, and I never advertised. People told their friends, I could read. I could read. I could read people. So why
Mm.
not? Like come and I was also doing so much deep psychological and spiritual work that it was translating, but the information didn't come from my life experience. Information came from another place, a clean reservoir that was given to me when I was ready for it. And it was
So,
really interesting.
so as you're going through this path, I find it fascinating because I dabbled in the music industry early in my life. We shall not talk about this. Um, before I got into the film industry, and
Yeah.
it mirrors what I've seen and what I've gone through. Your story is not unique in that sense with the
No.
drugs and the stress and the fame and the wanting to chase the dream and what you'll do to get
Uh,
that dream. And I have
yeah.
to ask you though, did you use your
Yeah.
psychic abilities when you signed that first contract with a record label?
No, but I will say, oh yeah, haha. No, but interesting that you said that because my music story is
Yeah.
quite fascinating because I think I didn't get a record deal till I was 40 and I looked really young.
No,
Yeah, and they thought I was in my
really.
20s.
Good for
So, yes,
you.
yes, I was EMI Music Canada, signed me to a worldwide deal. And I became kind of the pet of the former president who's passed away now. And I loved him very, very much. And it came when I was ready to compare the two paths. So I run a class now called Spirit of Your Business. And I use the information that I experienced to say, listen, when you are going along one path where you're pushing and you're hustling and you're moving and you're going against something internally to the alignment where you don't really have a map, you just go with what you're called to a day at a time. There's a huge difference of chasing versus receiving. So I was able to use that experience and I got everything I wanted, by the way, every single thing I ever wanted, even down to the label that signed me. But by the time my first, well, the second album, I had two albums. Um, I realized it was going to eat me alive, and I couldn't, I don't know that I could have stayed sober, to be honest.
Of
I
course.
don't know. And I wasn't meant to be really successful at that. It taught me that I was talented, but I had not pursued anything in this world. I'm like, I don't really do this. I'm really a singer. Don't come back next year. That's the first 6 years of me doing this professionally because I wouldn't even call it that. I would never even call myself a psychic. I hated the word. It reminded me of Miss Cleo. No offense, poo poo
Mhm.
poo. Sorry, Miss Cleo. But you know what I mean? I was like, no, I'm not doing that. The crystals and the big earrings. Now I wear big earrings and I have crystals all over my house. It's like
You've gone deep into the woo. You've gone
deep
deep
into
into
the
the woo.
woo, even yeah. But I realized that no, I mean, I could not let go, and that was a testament to attachment, to the power of the hungry ghosts, the power of chasing something. Go ahead.
Well, the thing is this that I find it fascinating. Again, a lot of your story mirrors mine in is that the dream chasing.
Yeah,
I wanted to be a worldwide famous director. That was my goal in life. And I knew I had the talent, I knew I had the experience and was in the room multiple times with big movie stars, big producers, big
yeah,
studios, all the time. But something always stopped. Always something always like
yes,
there was always something that like, oh no, oh no,
yeah. Oh no,
oh
I
no,
totally
oh
get it.
no.
Oh
And
boy,
I'm
oh boy,
like,
oh.
but the thing that always upset me, and I'm sure you felt the same way, is I'm good enough to get into the room. Not
Right.
everybody gets into the room, not once,
No.
but multiple times. And
Yep.
yet there's something blocking it. And I didn't understand why. So that need to chase that dream was a driving factor for most of my life until I let go of the dream.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I let go, things have now presented themselves in a way that I have my own streaming platform now
I know.
where I'm direct I'm going to be directing my own shows, my own series, my own
Right?
films under the way I want to do it without anyone telling me what to do. And that only became an option once I let go of the preconceived notion that I
Of the
had in of what I thought. I'm like, oh, well, if you need to be a famous director, you have to go the path of Steven Spielberg or George Lucas or Stanley Kubrick
right.
or any of these masters. But all of them followed their own path. So it's just
Yeah.
fascinating. It's a lesson I hope people listening is like when you're chasing a dream,
Yes.
it's great to be inspired by others. But once you understand that you have to let go and let it just be, whatever comes, comes,
Yes.
things will work out so much better than you planned because
Totally.
nothing ever comes exactly the way you wanted it in your brain because that's a lot of ego, a lot of programming, a lot of limitations, things like that. But when you let go, this is a
100%
perfect
surrender.
this show is my perfect example of that. Your career is as a
Yeah.
psychic medium and an author is because of that. You let go of the preconceived notions and you just let the universe guide you, which is
Oh,
scary. It's terrifying.
I think, it's so funny too. Everything that you're saying is the function of what I teach now in personal transformation, is that letting go and surrendering to the unknown is 1000% because each one of us has a unique path to follow. And the form of it is not our job to determine. We might get a glimpse, but it's never that way. I teach a thing now about around vision boards where we now create something called the zone of synchronicity, because I always say, what's missing on these things? Well, spirit's missing in these things. The universe is like all of that activity that happens outside of our consciousness, outside of our understanding, is where all the action is, and none of us ever put that there, right? So seeing that synchronicity is, and again, I'll use terms like God, universe. It doesn't really matter. I really
Source.
believe in power. Like I just do.
Yeah.
I don't believe this is human. If anything's generated from me, it's going to be limited. If it's generated through me, it might be something interesting. Like thy will be done through me, right? As opposed to it's mine, I saw it. And I do think your story, when you chase and chase, I was the same, getting in the room and like, wait a second, why is this like,
No.
right? And then
This up and down, up
up,
and
down,
down,
up, down.
up and down. And you pray for the ups, but then you crash down, and then it's harder to come back up again for you mentally and spiritually to come back up. Like, okay, do I go down this road again, go down this road again? And I don't know about you. I tried quitting probably a dozen times. Like I'm out. I can't
I'm
do
out.
this anymore. I'm not, this is ridiculous. I am not the universe's punching bag. I am out. And then at 5 minutes later,
There's
the
something.
mind, no, the mind would tell you, okay, what else are you going to do? And you're like, son of a, there's nothing else I can do. I can't go get a job. I'm a carny. I live in the film industry like a carnival
I love that
worker.
you called yourself a carny. That's
You're
hilarious.
you're a carny too.
Totally.
We
I
ran
get
away.
it.
We ran away with the
Wait for the
circus.
carnival.
We ran away with the circus. People who are outside of the creative arts don't really
Yeah.
get that. But that's essentially what you're doing.
Ran away
It's
from the
not
circus.
when you go to a set and they're like going to blow up a car that day because there's a chase scene of a cop show or something, and you're
Yeah.
working on it. That's not real. Like that's insane. Like you're literally putting up a tent and putting on a show. It's insane. It's not a real job in the sense that everybody else has to do a real job. So it's yeah, I call
Totally.
myself a carny. I call myself a carny all the time because we are. All of
I
the
love
artistic.
I love that because it's how I don't take myself so seriously too. Because
Oh,
my
yeah.
first job was at a carnival. My very first job was selling hot dogs and corned beef sandwiches.
Uh-huh.
And my first kiss was at the birthday game at the
Yeah.
carnival.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
my
yeah.
one of my best friends ran the zipper. You know what I mean? It's like carnivals was a thing. And it's funny too, because actually my mother's aunt actually did run away with the circus in Germany, like ran away with the circus for real, some Russian circus. She ran away with it. But
I mean,
yeah, so
it's in your
my blood.
bloodline.
It's in my
It's
blood.
that
But
absolutely in your blood. Absolutely.
one thing I will say this, there I'll see myself this way because I do think that there's an entertainment value, but there's also a lot of depth to what we do. Like
Oh,
there's information. So is there depth at a carnival? Well, sometimes if you look at it in terms of the metaphor of humanity that gets played out, like the fool, for example, in the courts would speak to the unspeakable because, hey, it's just fun. So, hey, this is the carnival. So go ahead.
but I would say that you should never underestimate or devalue the arts because the arts are what keep humanity sane. Without
Yeah.
story in all of its forms, whether it's films, whether it's books, whether it's
Yeah.
music,
Everything.
storytelling is what allows us to make some sort of sense of this simulation that we are all in because we're all trying to figure it out. We're all just trying to like get through life. This doesn't make sense. You're kind of like if you start to think about what we've gone through as
Yeah.
human beings,
Yeah.
we're spit out of our mother back when
Yeah.
we were born,
Right.
right? In a very traumatic way, thrown
Yeah.
into a cold world unless you're like home birthed in a warm water or something. But
Yeah.
generally
No, I
speaking,
was
you're
cesarean
thrown into
section and shoved in a thing.
right, you're bright lights, very painful, and then you're thrown into these people who you've never met, and now all of a sudden you start learning from everything that they do. So if they're born Amish, guess what? You're Amish. You're
Yeah,
born Jewish. Guess what? You're Jewish. If
that's
you're
right.
born
That's
to an
right.
African tribe, guess what? You're going to go hunting soon. Like, and there's a bunch of these different. So you're thrown into all of that and you're just trying to figure things out as you go through life. Stories is what keeps us sane and allows us to process this kind of, it's a sense of insanity, really. If you
You
like
know,
think about.
I 100%, I say we are stories in motion. We are stories
Absolutely.
in motion. We are always evolving, and our story is what makes us human, right? Our story
Yes.
gives us life. Yeah, the storytelling aspect of us, like every oracle card deck that I create tells the story of the universal story of what we could be feeling, experiencing, doing, the lexicon of life that changes according to us evolving. And right now we're in the biggest phase of evolution ever. And our stories are going to
Mhm.
change radically in the next 2 years. It just will. But without story and it's interesting you brought that without the arts, because I'm all about the arts. I channeled the paintings for my latest deck. My next book is on the neuro arts, on how art is essential to co-creating our reality. We cannot do life without that. Even our earliest ancestors knew that. Like the most primitive humans knew that. That art, sound, music, all of that. That's why I think I was attracted to all of that, because it felt like it kept
It's
me alive.
spiritual.
And yeah. So
Mhm.
it's funny, I got my record deal after I created Journey Through the Chakras, which at the time was not about appropriation. It was all because now you have to be careful. But at the time
It's
was
okay.
19.
It's
Is it
okay.
okay here? Okay,
It's
good.
compl This is a safe
Okay, good.
space.
Is
This
this
is
a safe space?
we can say the word
We can,
chakra and it's
okay,
okay.
we
Don't
can without getting
Colette,
canceled.
Please, please. I could care less. I'm a Gen Xer.
Okay,
I could
thank you.
care less.
Thank you
I
for
could
sharing.
care less. Okay.
Okay.
I promise
Okay.
you, Yogananda, listen, Yogananda brought yoga and meditation to the
Yeah.
West. Can you imagine what he could look at back now and go, what has goat yoga? What is
I
happening?
love
So
goat yoga.
please,
Never mind. There's a goat farm down the road here that does goat yoga.
do you
These little
understand?
baby
Do you
goats.
understand? But when yoga was brought over to the
I
West,
know.
goat yoga was not a thing,
No, not a thing.
nor should it be from the spiritual point of
It's
view.
not.
It's lovely. It's
It's
lovely.
cute.
So all that being said, we're in a safe space. You can say chakra.
Okay. So, yeah, so I had been immersed actually in studying with Anadea Judith. She had her books out, and then Carolyn Mace had the Anatomy of the Spirit. So everything was chakra, chakra, chakra. I was sober a few years at that point, and quite a few years. But I was like, you know what? Screw all this singer-songwriter stuff. I'm going to do something that's what I'm about, which is my spirituality, etc. So I connected with somebody named Mars Lazar, who is a platinum selling new age artist. And it just happened, boom, 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 really fast. And we created this spoken word. I think it was one of the first ones ever made that was in a 42 track, scenario where
Nice.
oh yeah, like it was like fully, the full Monty of everything in there. And then we also did 3 songs that correlated to the chakras because they went up the 7 notes of the C scale. Anyway, it turned out like one of my clients became the lawyer, the head of business affairs at EMI, and then the guy head of Virgin Records was a fan of the CD. We just released it, me and my girlfriend, and it went to #1 for a minute, and it was like really exciting. And then they're like, let's do another one of these. And I'm like, oh, so that was coming. Oh, the form is different. Okay, so it could be this. So I got flown down to LA to work with Eric Ross, who did Tori Amos's albums, and he goes, "No, we're not going to do the chanting thing. We're gonna write songs." I'm like, so then I went back with these songs. I said, "Listen, I'll give you your money back, but I'm actually really good at this. So you can have your money back, but I really want to do this." So, so he sent Dean Cameron sent it around and said, "I'm not going to tell anybody whose music this is. Okay, I'm just going to send it around, see what people think. If they like it, you can do an album." And that was the rest was history. But even getting the thing that I
Mhm.
knew it was the universe said, "You want this bad? Well, we know now you're strong enough to deal with looking at yourself with true eyes. Look at
Mhm.
this. Is this the life for you?" And I'm like,
Can
no.
Yeah. So the thing that's also interesting, and I want people listening to understand this, people who are frustrated with maybe not being where they want to be in life,
Yeah.
in every aspect of it,
Yep.
is that if it's not happening for you, at least this is my personal experience. I can't say for everybody, but when things aren't happening exactly the way you want it, or even remotely how you want it, it also could be the universe protecting you because you're not ready.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. I look back now, go, thank you, God. I would have drank.
Oh,
I would
oh
have
no.
not been, I wouldn't be alive.
If I would have gotten if I would, I almost made a $20 million movie for the mafia. It's a whole story. It's a book about, I wrote a book about it. It's a whole thing. If I
Oh
would have
my
had
God,
that
I get
happen
it.
to me, if I would have happened to me at 26 was when I was doing it, I would have self-imploded
Yeah.
because of,
Yeah.
if I would have worked with the caliber of actors, I was working with some of the biggest movie stars in the world on that project. It would have been a very high profile. It would have been a huge
Yeah.
deal. I would have been thrust into the spotlight. I
Yeah.
was so not ready for that, and it
Right.
would have destroyed me.
Yeah.
And it would have
Yeah.
just destroyed me. So I wasn't ready for it. So it's slowly, as I've noticed things throughout my life, I'm like, oh, things start to show up and grow at the level that you are ready to accept it. So
Yeah.
like, it's like basically giving somebody, that's why lottery ticket winners have such a difficult time
And they lose their
because
money.
they
They
lose
aren't
their money or
ready.
they
They don't have a
die.
container. Yep.
They look, if you're working a 9 to 5, working for minimum wage, and all of a sudden someone throws you $20 million, you don't have the capacity to understand how to handle that kind of energy coming into your life.
Yeah.
I mean,
Totally.
some people, I did, and I won't get too deep into it, but I did a documentary series, a commercial series for a lottery in Florida where I got to interview lottery
Right.
winners. It was fascinating because some of them you can see they're going to explode in about a year. You could see it.
Yep.
Another one ignored it, kept
Yep.
working because he didn't want to lose
Yep.
his pension, but he had 20 million in the bank. Didn't change his
Yeah.
house, didn't change anything.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, every once in a while when my wife walks by a store and wants to buy a dress, I let her buy it. So that's another way. He understood. He was an older man, but he understood he couldn't. He
Yeah.
just didn't understand it. So he just put it away. So there was different ways of handling it. It was fascinating. But that's why people that get that, that's why we've seen it in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
Young kids who get
Yeah.
famous really fast, they get
And their
destroyed
mental
by the
health
business.
stuff. Absolutely.
Done.
And I
Yeah.
have been one of them, and I was grateful. And then, of course, when I told them how old I was, that was the headline. I remember one of the headlines was EMI Music takes a risk on mature artist.
What
Right.
the
And
hell?
then it was
What
like,
the
oh
hell?
yeah, she could be Britney Spears's mother, right? Or something.
Mature artist. Wow. That's
Mature.
such a gaslighting term there.
Oh
Like
yeah. Then it was
just want to
over.
call her, you just want to call her an old bag already. All right.
Old.
That's just
Call her
say,
old,
yeah,
right?
like just old, right? Like old. It's
She's
like
old.
just
They're just
say,
saying she's old.
just
But
yes, I mean, come on. And you're not
but the
that old, by the way. I would kill to be that age that you were when that
right,
happened.
right. But the cool thing was that, the work, the spiritual work I was doing and the work as an intuitive, and I just used the word intuitive, it was a lot easier,
Sure.
but yes, psychic medium, but I'd called myself an intuitive. But that came, I never advertised. I never advertised. And I was book solid. After I've been doing this for 6 years, I ended up clients from 29 countries that would call me. There was no internet. They would give out my phone number,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
in airports, in bathrooms, at dinner tables, at like for so and so gave it to so and so. And one day I
Interesting.
remember somebody called and they said they were calling from Delhi, and I thought they were calling from the deli up the road. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, you want to come over? Like, no, no, you come and we will give you rose petals. And I'm like, what are you saying? And then I'm
New
like,
Delhi.
you're calling from where? Right. And then so I did this reading for this man, and then I ended up with these group of Japanese tourists that came that didn't speak a word of English, and they would tape it, and I had no interpreter, and I would tell them what I saw, and then the lady would call and say, oh, by the way, I listened to the tapes and translate it for them. That was amazing. And I'm like, I was so freaked out. And then I was like, okay, obviously I am this. And I remember crying because I didn't want to be this. I thought I was too weird. Like I thought, because I even dated guys that the minute they found out what I did for a living, like, well, oh, I don't believe in that. I'm like, well, I'm not sleeping with you. And then another one was like, oh, my parents are Orthodox, whatever. And I could never bring you home. And I'm like, well, then what are we doing? It's like, because this was such a thing. So it was like, I felt that I had a, like, that I was less than somehow
Of
because I
course.
wasn't acceptable in those days. Now it's like really cool. Like nobody in my world, nobody woke up and said, I'm gonna wake up and be a psychic medium. What a cool idea for a job. Like we were like fringe, right? This is very
Oh, I
fringy
know. Oh,
and
yeah.
not at all respectables. And I wanted nothing more to, and my parents at that point had died already. And I remember when my mom was still alive, she was still alive. And when my dad died, because they died 2 years apart. I thought it was a year, but actually it was two. And after he died, she loved going to psychics, but I wasn't allowed to be one. Okay, no, right? She liked going and whatever. And one day a lady, she worked at a dress shop because after my parents had lost everything, she had to work. And so this lady went in and said, "Oh my God, I just had the most amazing reading from this woman." And you have to talk to her. And my mother said, who is it? Give her my name. Like, and she writes it all out on a piece of, I can't remember how to say her name. It's a little strange. She writes down Colette and then my phone number. And my mother goes, that's my daughter. Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
ruh-roh,
Yeah.
ruh-roh.
Oh, but no, but then my mom was cool because, she was cool with it. Then she died the year later, but it took all that time. It's because on my dad's funeral, she told people I was in marketing. They said, "What are you doing?" And then she goes, "She's in marketing." I'm like,
But the thing,
okay.
but the thing is this, and I'm not to defend your parents, who wanted the best for you, but of
They
that,
wanted to protect
they
me.
were, yeah, they wanted to protect you. They're depression era babies. So
Yeah.
they just like, I don't want them to struggle. Like, I'm
Oh,
cool with the whole psychic medium thing, but I don't want my daughter to go through the same hell that I've seen others go through. I want her to have a stable job. I want her to, they're trying to protect
yes.
you.
And they
It was
wanted
their
me to be.
generation.
My
Yeah.
dad was born in 1908. My mother was born in 1927, right? So they came,
I
my dad
mean,
went to
yeah.
World War One and two, and my mom,
And the depression.
and
And
right, and
and the
Europe,
depression.
we were in Europe. So and they wanted me to have a shot
Sure.
at life that they didn't have. They wanted, and like most, and they worked hard, my father particularly. So it was a tragedy when he lost everything. But, the work just came to me. And I think that this is the other thing when people are struggling and they're saying, like you said earlier, like your experiences, like, you didn't get what you wanted yet. But what if the form, like the essence of what I always wanted, because that was the other thing, I really tricked myself because I kept getting on my knees every day and I did the whole prayer and, show me, use me as thou wilt, thy will be done through me, relieve me of the bondage of self so that I may better do thy will, right? That let there be light, use me as thou wilt. And it was like, and PS, I want to be a famous singer, right? It was like, no, PS, not happening. And so the clients just came and this just came and I got a book deal with Hay House. Like I had no plans on writing a book, but it was just all these weird doors kept opening and like, okay, this is trippy. And then I'm like, I'm not a medium. I'm not a medium. I just know things about dead people. And the next thing you know, I'm like, okay, well, I smell them now. All right, okay, because I didn't want to step on any medium's toes at Hay House. I'm like, oh my God, my friend John, he's a medium. I'm not saying it because I'm not trained. I am an untrained blob of talent, and I don't know. And all I know is what comes through. I know the differentiation between what is me, what is my wants, what is my ego, and what is spirit. I know how to separate all that, and it just comes out of me. And to me, that was too natural, and it was not hard enough work, if you understand. Like, and then I realized that's not how spirit wants it to be. It's not about hustling. It's not about pushing forward. It's not about working hard. It's about surrendering and getting to play in life. And this is what
Col
I get to do. Go ahead.
I have to ask you this.
Yes, you
Um,
can ask me.
when you were going through your chasing of a dream,
Yes.
I said this to myself many times because I was angry at God. I was angry at
Oh yeah.
Source. I was raised a Catholic, so I always had a belief in a greater power,
Yes.
regardless
Yeah.
of dogma. And I
Yeah,
would
me too.
ask,
I'm not.
and I would say, why would you give me this dream? Why would you give me the urge, the drive, the talent,
Yep.
the experiences? Why would you do this to me and not allow me to get to where I want to be? Why do those doors keep shutting on me? Why does it? And I was so angry about that. Did you ever
Oh,
ask
hell
that
yeah.
question?
Oh my God. I was so torn because
Yeah.
on one hand, I was trusting and I believed. And on the other hand, I was the most frustrated human. And I was mad. And I was like, what is this? I'm talented. I'm supposed to have this. I know this is thing. But I was so so I would visualize myself because I would receive an image of me standing with a microphone. And in Toronto, and I'm originally from Toronto in Canada, that there was a place called Massey Hall and that became Roy Thompson Hall, right? And I saw myself with a microphone in front of thousands of people on that stage. Well, 2 years into being with Hay House, I ended up with a microphone in my hand in front of thousands of people at Massey Hall, Roy Thompson Hall, doing readings. And I
Mhm.
was like, and I realizing while I was standing there,
Oh.
oh, and they were playing my music, by the way, too. They played my music just before I came on
So
stage. It's crazy.
it's a different version of the dream. And
Yeah.
I argue it's probably a better version than the dream because this
Oh,
version
much better. Oh my
doesn't
God.
doesn't go down the Janis Joplin route. You
Yeah.
know,
Oh,
doesn't
well,
go
yeah, the
the
22nd Club. I got, yep. I'm lucky I
yeah,
didn't get into that club.
yeah, that whole like I'm gonna self-destruct rock star thing. So this is
Yeah.
an actual much more stable, much more
I'm
sustainable
in
version of that
service
dream.
and I'm in service. I don't get tired. It's not about me, right? It really isn't about
Right.
me. And I don't believe I have an original thought either. I really don't. I believe that there's so many of us speaking right now about very similar things. It's just that people want to hear it from different personalities. Like we see all
Different
the same thing,
flavors.
different flavors of the same exactly. We're all ice cream, but I'm like, spumoni. Right?
But
So
same thing for what I do. I mean,
yeah,
I mean, dozens and dozens of shows that talk to intuitives and to channelers and to, mystics and near-death experiencers and all that stuff. There's a ton of shows that do that, but people might like the way I do that
yeah,
because of
I
my
love it.
flavor and my experience. So I appreciate it. And I'm not the cup of tea for a lot of people, and they'll
Yeah,
go to
same.
another
I
show,
am.
and that's
Yep.
and that's completely fine. But I think that's why I bring so many different personalities, so
Yeah,
many different people from different walks of life to talk about similar conversations because like
yeah.
this conversation has gone into places that I didn't even know we were going to because
I mean, either we didn't prep.
no, it is an organic conversation, and that's what people really want to hear because the thing is that your story might not ring for a lot of people, but it
Yeah,
might ring
yeah.
for a handful. They'll
Yeah,
go, "Oh, I understand," because they connect with you in your story, they connect with me in my story, or anything like that. So it's my job, my mission is to shine as much light onto different versions of this story as
yeah.
possible. I mean, I can rattle off a lot of the things that we're going to talk about in a few minutes because I'm going to ask you
Okay.
similar questions and I know where it's going to go, but your take on it might be a little bit
Yeah,
different, but a little
yeah,
bit different flavors. I have to ask you before we get to those questions, I
yeah,
want to ask you, so you say you talk to dead people, right?
yeah.
You hear them.
Oh, seeing.
I was always like, is this Ghost? Is this Whoopi Goldberg? Or
No.
just walk
Oh,
around
I
like the
tell you,
Sixth Sense and just see dead, like, there's
no,
Bob from the Roman times, you know?
no, no. Mine is no. That's funny, and I love Whoopi Goldberg when she realized she actually had it. So
Yeah.
I don't see anything. Um, I get. It's like I remember them. It's like all of a sudden I remember the name. I remember what they smell like. I remember their feelings. I remember the
Hmm.
stories. It's like they're my memory, but I'm being given it as a gift to see and into it. So well, only one time or two times I've actually seen somebody walk through my house while I was doing a reading over the phone. I'm like, you get out of my house. I'm not having that. I don't mind doing it over the phone. I don't mind listening, but I'm not looking at anybody that's not supposed to be there. Like I have a caveat that that's not for me. I just don't want it. But I get information And they kind of hijacked me a little bit. Only one time have I done physical mediumship, which on stage, that was terrifying. And I never want to do that again either. So I kind of figured out what I was okay with, I think. But for me, it was more like they come through feelings, they identify through evidence. And then they always have a conversation that they want to share. And it's like broke, it's like hearing something that's you know what I mean? It's like I get some of it and whatever, and I just say, okay, this is what I'm getting. It may not be 100% correct, but do you know what this means? And the person goes, oh my God, of course I know what this means, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay. And then I'll translate something. It's like me, I'm being a translator. I'm a translator of somebody else's life experience, but I'm remembering them. It's the same thing when I look into the future. I remember the future. I remember this thing that's coming. I remember it. So for me, it's all about this feeling state of memory. So when I see mediums say, oh, I see so-and-so behind you, I'm like, I don't see anybody there, but I know what I'm picking up. You know what I mean? And we all experience it differently. For me, it's about tapping into consciousness. And I can't have a two-way conversation. I try, like, what's it like over there? So I can tell everybody, right? And like, blank, it doesn't go like that. It's more like I'm going to be used on behalf of someone in front of me. Like I do readings twice a month. The only place I do it on my membership site, it's called Spirit Jam. And so I do readings off the Oracle cards. I'll do coaching, and mediumship invariably comes through for whoever's in front of me. And it's like, I'm like, oh, does this make sense to you? Like so-and-so and whatchamacallit. And then I'll get a German word and the guy goes, oh my God, my mom used to make that for me when I was a kid, and or something else, right? So it's more about connecting to consciousness. That said, I believe that's what all of us tap into, and the new generations of kids coming up already have that access point, this new genetic child, the new human that's coming through. Telepathy, things like that are just part and parcel of what our capabilities are. So when I tune in, I'm like, I tap into some kind of shared resource. So for me, it's always been about consciousness. It's like, we share this. You came to me, you're letting me look.
Have you heard of the telepathy tapes?
Yes. Yes.
We just released on Saturday, we released the episode that talks to the director who's
I gotta watch that. I have to watch it.
God, yeah, it's a great episode, and it's such a beautiful thing about children, non for everyone listening, nonverbal children, who are on the spectrum, autistic or on the spectrum, and how they have telepathy, and it's being scientifically proven, not just like a couple of U.S. people, but worldwide.
Yeah,
Stories
they know
by parents,
kids, and they all come together. These kids.
It's amazing. It's remarkable.
True.
Yeah, well, people are starting to figure out that science is starting to catch up with this, because they're like testing it, and they're like, well, something's happening, and we can test it again and again, and something's happening.
Ions, the noetic science. Yeah. Ions. Yeah. It has always, don't be barking. My dog just woke up on my lap. Ions is one of my favorite, they do so much scientific research around the paranormal before it was popular even, really. Now, of course, now we're seeing more and more studies because science is catching up. Like look at the manifesto for post-materialist science too, like all these different,
quantum physics. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Like suggesting that consciousness is fundamental to life. That's why I believe, like I'm an animist, I believe that there is a spirit in all things. And that's like consciousness exists. We are one giant blob of consciousness, the noospheric consciousness that exists around our planet, and also multidimensionally. So there's no way that this doesn't exist. It's just that because not everybody has it, people get scared. And so therefore they impose their superstitions on it, and they impose their dogma on it. And that's not supposed to be. And you should have an intermediary, it should be a priest or something, that you're not allowed to do that, or it has to go here. And the fact is it's just natural for some of us. I can't do a lot of things like normal people do, but I can talk to dead people, and I can, and I know. And I can see the future in some instances, or the potentiality from a particular point of vantage, because I don't believe in absolute determinism at all. I don't.
Right.
I believe in millions of choices.
So let's go down that road. You mentioned earlier that humanity is going through a very difficult
Yeah.
change in the next
Birth canal.
couple of years. Can you elaborate on what you are seeing for humanity?
What I see. So I'm going to say something that is really important that we know. Like, I'm a Canadian, I think you're an American, and this
Hmm.
has nothing to do with politics, nothing at all. I could care less about that, because if you go above, if you can sit on a ledge and look at the world, right? Sit on a
Sure.
ledge and see the world. We are going through a global shift. This was predicted by so many different cultures. I mean, that it's not even important to say which one, right? Do you know what I mean? This is something that we have known was coming. And this is not like Y2K or 2012, right? This is not like we were all sitting there waiting for the apocalypse, which just means revelation, by the way, too, right? It's Greek for to be revealed, something to be revealed. And I think that with the advent of AI, with the advent of our genetic changes, the kids that are being born right now, and yes, structures that are disintegrating. We need a deconstruction right now for this new golden age that has been predicted to actually come to life. No birth. I mean, if you were the first guy that ever saw a woman giving birth, okay,
Oh no,
you think
no, no,
it's
no, no.
exciting? No, right? It's like
She looks like she's dying. She looks like
she's
they're
dying.
killing her.
She
Yeah,
never mind. You
yeah.
watch the whole thing go. She gets bigger and bigger and bigger. She's got hemorrhoids. She's nasty. She feels bad. Like, you know what I mean? Then she starts screaming and yelling, and this goop comes out of her, and then plop comes the baby, and then everything is okay. We're in that phase. We're not even crowning yet. We are claustrophobic. Okay. We are in this birth canal. We're all freaking out, and we're gonna come out. We are. But it's like, if you look at more metamorphosis, if you look at that, how what happens to the caterpillars, it needs to die to itself in order to be born, and it needs to use its own strength to get itself out of its cocoon, right? It's got to come out there. We can't help a butterfly out of its cocoon. It needs to fly on its own. So all of us are going through this, and the worst thing any of us can do right now is look at the small details of the current state of the world, quote unquote, with all the crazy going in. That's none of it means anything. And it's hard to say that to people. Go, what do you mean? Because it's just part of this process. And what we see today is not going to be the same thing this time next year, or this time the year after. We're in the biggest rapid change of humanity, and we all chose to be here. That's what I believe. And is it all going to, it's like, oh, will it be good? Will it be bad? It'll be different. It'll be very different, and it'll support us in a way that we need to in order for us to be on this planet until the planet decides to kick us off, if it
But
does.
the thing is that people want things to most people don't like change as a general statement. Humanity
No, certainty
as a
is,
general
yeah,
statement, certainty. Yeah, you want certainty because if not, the tiger will kill you
yeah,
around the corner. That's so you want.
yes,
Well, it seems like I'm going to say this decade for sure, but
yeah,
I'd say, argue the
sustained
last,
uncertainty.
I think since 2012, I think really things have been becoming more uncertain, more chaotic, more just shifting and also speeding up in a
Oh
way
yeah.
that I've never seen in my lifetime. I'm sure you've never seen in your lifetime
Oh,
as well. But the moment 2020 came in, this decade,
yeah.
we came
Oh
in,
yeah.
we came in hot with COVID. And the whole, I mean, came in real hot. And every year since has been this kind of
Yeah.
insanity that has been
Yeah.
continuously going. And this year hasn't, as of this recording, has not wavered in that sense either. It's
Can I
it's been a crazy year.
can I add to this? So sorry, you know what? I notice I interrupt you a lot, but it's because
Go
I get
for it.
excited.
Go, go, go,
It's
go.
like
Go for it. It's all good.
the sustained uncertainty is something all of us have now, like you said, since 2012, there's been a level of sustained uncertainty that's gathered more and more steam as we went. Human beings crave certainty in times of uncertainty more than anything else. So they go and they say, show me, tell me it's going to be okay. Tell me it's going to be okay. But our certainty cannot come from us determining how certain we are or not by looking at the outer world to dictate how we feel. We can't wait for it to behave. It's not going to behave. And we have to retrain ourselves to trust that certainty must come from within. And we have the technology for that. The inner world that can recognize that the unknown outer is not where we have to place our attention. Because then we get seduced, and that's when we fear, and then the stress response happens. And you cannot, when you're on patrol looking for threats, you cannot co-create your reality from a place of creativity. You just can't, because your intuition turns into instinct for survival. It's no longer operating for you that way. So the trick is now, it's not even a trick, the invitation for us now is to determine where can our certainty come from. And for me, when I am operating at my best, my certainty comes from, and it's not coming from, well, God's going to fix it. That's not what I mean. It's knowing that I am made of something greater. My own inner technology is greater than I know. And that my job is to detach from the conditioned self to the best of my ability on a daily basis. And I'm not going to do it perfect every day, but I'm going to know that there is something greater than me that's running the show. Like, who's large and in charge? It's not me. And to radically accept that there is something that I don't know and that is unknowable, but I must follow it. And when I do that, I feel safe, because if my safety is not determined on whether or not the outer is reflecting to me that I'm okay. Does that make any sense?
It makes perfect sense. But one thing that I'd like to add on to that is that
Yeah.
you and I have gone to different places in our own life that forced us to let go.
Right.
We hit a spiritual rock bottom or a career rock bottom, financially, career-wise, love, whatever it is. We hit a rock bottom to the point where the universe brought us to our knees.
Yeah.
And we had really, the choice was, we can continue to live here, or
Yeah.
you can let go. And
Yeah.
if you let go, we will carry you. We will
Yeah.
take you down this path, and it's going to be more glorious than you can even imagine. It's going to be far beyond what you
Yeah.
think it can be if you allow it to happen. But the universe kept pounding us and pounding us. Is that a fair statement?
1000%. And that's what's happening to so many people right now. But that's why you are a lighthouse in your way. We're different flavors of the same lighthouse. Do you know what I'm saying? It's
Hmm.
like, and I'm here doing this to show people, if I can do it, you can too. Like, I was
But
voted least likely to succeed by
uh,
people in my treatment center for women. Like, oh, that
but
one,
the
she's
th
too.
but the thing is that, and this is what people don't understand, is yes, many people are going through an awakening right now. There's no
Yeah.
question. The numbers of this show basically explain is a proof of
Yes.
that happening.
Yeah.
Because a show like this would have never had 1 million plus subscribers. That's insanity. This
Yes.
is weirdos. We're talking to psychics and woo-woo people, the people who talk to the dead, for God's sakes. Who does this? Um, you know what I mean? So people are going on an individual sense, but I think that
Collective.
on a macro sense, the universe, source, whatever you want to call it, is now doing it on a collective
Yeah.
way to all of humanity. Hence, COVID was the first, like one of
Yeah.
those tricks. The economic hits that have happened and will happen in the future.
Yep.
Just on a logical standpoint, the environment, the different organizations, from religion to healthcare to
Yep.
the arts to media, all of it is being shaken to the core because it needs to be brought essentially to its knees to allow for this new thing to come up. But that's not pleasant, as you and I can
Oh,
both attest to.
and it doesn't have to be. And I think people, it's like, so that's why I'll give you an example. When I got sober, I had people who were clean and sober, who had worse experiences, that were ahead of me, that knew what I was talking about, but they had done it. And so I followed this system, right?
Right.
The 12 steps at that time, right? So I followed that avidly. I'm like, show me, oh, wow, you experienced that? Well, what did you do? Right.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
we did. Right. And so, and another thing too, let me tell you something about your show. One of the best parts about your show, which is why I was like, I love this guy, was that you make us look human. Like we're not on pedestals here. We're sharing information. We're human beings in here without like, I don't want to be on anybody's pedestal. I want to share my experience, strength, and hope with people and say, hey, it worked for me. This is what I did. Take what you like and leave the rest and find something from somebody else too, because we all need help right now. And you're right. The whole kit and caboodle is going through it, and it's going to be unpleasant. And it's going to, and even the people who think it's yippee, oh boy, this is the best thing ever, and this is what I wanted, are also going to go through something unpleasant, right? It doesn't matter where you're coming from. The unpleasantness is change because human beings don't want it, because whatever, as soon as you get what you say you want, you're going to evolve into something else, and you have to become the person that lives that life. You need to change. You can't just sit there. There's no such thing as static,
What,
And so,
what
go ahead.
like we were saying, is that this pressure that the universe is putting not only
Yeah.
on the individual but on the collective, it is getting you to a point where you have almost no other choice. You have two choices: continue on the path, which has not been working and it's not been pleasant, or you begin to look inward. And that's
Yeah,
what's
that's
happening to so many people. People are starting to look inward because the answers are not outside. This is what all the sages, this is all the saints, this is all the ascended masters had spoken about, the prophets who've come through, those beautiful souls who are, guiding lights for humanity, the
yeah,
Jesuses, the Buddhas of the world.
yeah.
Um, and you're being forced to look inward for the answer, which is so much more powerful than
And it's work.
looking, and it
And
and
it,
it work
and it
and
takes work.
it's
And
not easy. You're gonna have to this is one of the reasons why people don't meditate as much as they should, because when they
yeah,
start to meditate, one, they'll start to judge it, or two, they'll not only start to judge it, but stuff will start to come up,
yeah.
unpleasant stuff that they don't want to deal with. And they're like, you know what? I'd rather not. I don't want to talk about what happened to me as a child. I don't want to talk about what that person did to me. I don't want to talk about my failures or the traumas that I had in my life. I don't want to go down that road. But without
Hmm.
doing that inner work, the shadow work, if you will,
Yeah. The shout.
and
Yeah.
you cannot come out of the cocoon. And that's the
Right.
thing that
Yeah.
humanity's going through.
And you made a really good point about shadow work. So that became, it's so interesting how words get popularized, like trauma became popularized and shadow work became, without people really understanding what they were talking about, right? And if we don't look at our shadow, which is the qualities that we have that we want to disown about ourselves and others, right? Disowning, we will not change. We can't, because it's going to constantly pull us back. Those hungry ghosts that that unmet desires, the qualities in our personalities, those character flaws is what they say, or those
Mm.
quirks in us that actually keep us on that hamster wheel too. Oh, I'm going to keep doing the conditioned thing, hoping I'll do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And if we do what we did, we're going to get what we got. So it's that willingness, and I think that's what the we comes in. It's interesting that we're seeing that such a push to individualism and the need for the collective to come together and hold hands. It's not about the me, the unique me that's here to do my job can serve the we. So it's two things, but we don't stay in the individualism. We say, this is how I got to this authentic part. So let's do this together. And I think that's another reason why so many communities are formed. That's why your show has become so popular. That's why, like we need each other right now. We need also to not be in echo chambers either, to like just say my way is the only way. The spiritual way, there are many paths to enlightenment. Pick the one that you're attracted to,
I mean,
you know, right? There is no
I,
just one way.
that's the thing that's so fascinating to me, when people are like, wars are happening because of people's belief systems.
Yeah,
And they have the arrogance to believe that their way is the only way. Every one of
yeah,
the masters who walked this earth, that a lot of these great dogmatic religions, spiritual
yeah.
paths, philosophies started, they were all different, but
Yeah.
arguably saying very similar
Similar
things.
things. I dug out a
Buddha,
book.
yeah, Buddha,
Buddha,
Jesus,
Lao Tzu, Jesus,
Taoist, Lao Tzu, like you could just go Zora. I mean, there's
Krishna.
so Krishna, they're all saying very similar things, but they're different flavors because you need that. And it just like, look, my flavor is, I studied Yogananda. I love his path, but he's the one who's like, no, 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 but Jesus said the same thing. Oh, and by the
Yeah,
way, and also these are all these other great saints and stuff like that. It's a very inclusive idea about it, but
yeah,
whatever rings true to you is not the only way for everybody. Just like not everyone eats steak.
right.
They get their some people get their protein from mung bean,
Yeah,
culturally,
exactly.
and other people get it from Texas, cattle.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
It's a completely different. So not every path is for everybody. I just
No,
wanted to put that out there.
no, and yeah, like you and I think very similarly. We're very alike, you and I think in a lot of ways the way we see things. And I love your irreverence too.
Mhm.
Because I think we take ourselves way too seriously. We're so sensitive right now when the truth is that happening. You know what I mean? It's like it is happening. It's going down. We're not going back. We're going forward to something we've never seen before. It has never been in our lifetimes before. And the way there is to go in many respects, too. Some of the oldest teachings are still valid today. The cleanest,
Absolutely.
they are valid. So, we're not here to reinvent the wheel. Go back to the simplest form is love thy neighbor as thyself. Do unto others, the golden rule, like feed the hungry. It's like,
The,
they're all
the kingdom of heaven is inside of you. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, like,
of
well,
course.
that mostly the I am, right? And greater works than these shall ye do. Wasn't that something that Jesus said, right? When he made the
Mhm.
loaves and the fishes happen, right? Like it's like, it's all about the fact that every single, no matter where it came from, speaks to the fact that we are one. Unity is our number one truth, that we are all one. We are one consciousness, one being, that our greatest sin, we miss the mark. Sin means to miss the mark. It doesn't mean you're bad. You missed the mark, that you are a spiritual being having a human experience, right? And that you let your human experience run the show. When truthfully, spirit, or that the world, that the unseen world is the primary world, the world of synchronicity, the world of higher consciousness. We have access to that
Mhm.
knows natural morality, natural, right? It is natural for us to get along. That's what nature does. It's not the survival of the fittest. It's the survival of that which fits best with others, right? It's like play nice in the freaking sandbox. I don't know who said that, but right? It's like
Jesus,
it doesn't.
I think Jesus did.
Jesus,
I think
okay,
Jesus did.
Jesus said that, right? In the sandbox, exactly. But that's one of the things that you have is a running thread in your shows, is that no matter who you're interviewing, at some point, no matter how woo-woo and how many weird talents and skills we have, because I have tons more, but it's like whatever. The bottom line at the end of the day, if we're doing this, we're here to help people find themselves. For me, it's all about personal transformation. If I can help midwife something for somebody else without me putting any of my own projected rules on it, it's like, here, try this. Well, this is what worked for me. You try it too, right? When I channel my Oracle card decks, I have the wildest experience. Like recently when I did the whole Guides of the Hidden Realms decks, I mean, it was like somebody just moved me aside and I had to paint. I hadn't picked up a paintbrush in 30 years. Like, go do
Mhm.
this. I'm like, okay, like, what the hell?
So, so,
So it's
so
like,
Colette,
let it, go ahead.
so let me ask you,
Yes.
for people listening right now who are very fearful of the future, who are
Yes.
fearful of the rest of this year, the rest of next year, the rest of this decade, what advice do you have for them, knowing what you've seen for humanity? What would you
Oh,
say to them?
I want to give them a hug. Like, I'm kind of the mother of all orphans, right? I mean, we've got to give ourselves a hug, got to give ourselves a hall pass. This is going to be a little bit scary, and it's one day at a time. If you could live your life 24 hours at a time and trust a primary relationship with spirit or your higher power beyond your need to look at the outer world to tell you whether you're okay or not, like, meditate more. I mean, I know that sounds so pat and so simple. But I believe that this world is going to be a world that is beautiful, that there is so much more beauty than there is the ugly, that the pain that we're going through is like the pain of giving birth. It's not the kind of hard pain that we are being somehow traumatized unnecessarily, that we are in this beautiful process. I'm excited. I'm actually super hopeful. I'm hopeful of so much.
Hmm.
and it's not going to be, the devastation is not going to be the kind of devastation that you think. It's not the end of the world. It's an end of our world and a beginning of something new and beautiful. And I'm sticking to this. I believe it every day I wake up and go, now let's see. Right. It's a way also that we could surrender our fear to a power greater than ourselves, whatever it is for you, whatever it is.
Hmm.
I don't care if you call it whatever you want, just trust that you're not alone.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful message. I hope people listening can take that and run with it because, I ask about this question. I ask about this a lot on the show because I believe that it's my responsibility to let
Yeah.
people know because they're scared.
Yeah.
They're looking for answers in an uncertain world. And they come to the show sometimes looking for those answers. And
Yeah.
oracles, or intuitives, or mediums, or channels, they have a connection to the other side and a connection to what is the potentiality of what the future is. But like I told you before you started talking about it, everything
Yeah.
you said I've heard before.
Yeah.
Nothing is new. Like it's not new information. It's the way
I've
you
said the same
presented it.
thing. Yeah.
But it's the
Mm-hmm.
way you presented it, the flavor you presented it, the hope that you're putting into it
Oh,
that
I
I
am
hope
hopeful.
people, yeah, that take out of it. But just because something is going to be unpleasant doesn't mean that you're not going to see the sun on the other side of it.
Yeah.
But that's life. That is what we've all
Yeah.
gone through. Every single human being on the planet has had struggle in one way, shape, or form. Whether you're the
Yeah.
richest person in the world or the poorest person in the world, the most loved or the least loved, all of us have gone through some, if not, we wouldn't be here, right?
You know, the other thing too is that our authentic selves hold our highest potential. And
Hmm.
that's the other thing. Don't wait for the world to settle down for you to pursue your dream. That's the other thing, right? You're here if you feel called or you're inspired, because inspiration is a gift. That's the other thing. Don't give into your fear because you won't leave room for inspiration. Inspiration is a gift every human being has. It doesn't matter how big or small the thing is that you're inspired to move towards. Go do that because this world is about not it's both, and this and that will be true. This will
Hmm.
be true that I'm hopeful and I love humanity and I believe that we all get a second chance, and I really believe that good is going to come out of all whatever anybody is seeing right now. I really believe that. I believe it, that if you cannot push a seed into ground that is so hard it won't accept anything new, you have to take a hoe and break it up, right? You break it up, you break up the soil, and that's what's happening right now. And new growth is assured. And yeah, if you're a piece of sand, if you're in there, you're going, like that's the place where I feel safest. Safety. It's like we have to trust in something greater, and and be okay with our fear. That's the other thing. It's like make friends with it. Like instead of saying like don't have that, I can't stand that whole love and light. Everything is going to be love and light, and like it's like we'll bypass all that's going on. No, no, no. It's both and. It's hey, this is happening. I'm really uncomfortable. Oh wow, and I'm feeling fearful. And then it's like, yeah, and you know what? There's a power greater than myself that knows better than me, and I may not get that information. So I'm
Hmm.
called to do this. I'm going to go do this while I'm noticing that. It's about not choosing one or the other. It's being present to what is, because that's where the freedom is
Hmm.
not trying to change anything that's in front of us except ourselves.
Beautifully, beautifully said. Now, Colette, I'm going to ask you a few questions I ask all my
Yes.
guests. What
Okay.
is your what is your definition of living a fulfilled life?
Being creative, having dogs, loving my husband. Me,
If you had it,
honestly, it's creativity. It's being able to create and having the opportunity to create and knowing what else is a fulfilled life. Well, I'm in nature a lot. I live in the middle of nowhere on a big farm, so I love nature. Um, Seeing that other people could be impacted in a positive way by anything I do, like I don't care what it is, and still getting to do oracle cards. Like for me, that's like it was a crazy little nichey thing that I just knew I had to do what I was called to do. And I love doing these things. That's my creativity. It's painting. I don't know, like music. I'm back doing music again.
Fair
Fulfillment
enough.
is, but it's also knowing, and I'm not going to say world peace, like, like we're not in a pageant,
Hmm.
but trusting. I'm not fulfilled if I don't have God in my life. I'll just be honest. If I don't have some kind of power greater than myself, be it the consciousness, be it that I can see the spirit in all things, that has to exist in my life for me to feel fulfilled.
If
Yeah.
you had a chance to go back in time and speak to little Colette, what advice would you give her?
Don't drink the Slivovitz. I think you're going to be more than okay. Everything you're going to go through is going to bring you a gift, even the most painful ones. Trust. I would tell her to trust, and that she would never really ever be alone.
How do you define God or source?
Consciousness that is wiser than human. Because, for me, God and source is neutral too. So it's like it is going to reflect to me. If I keep rehearsing evil over and over again, I'm going to see that. So I have a relationship to it. It's not something that's outside of me. It's something I'm a part of. So
Hmm.
God, source, I'm part of that. So I have a responsibility to the dynamic relationship that I have with source, and that I am responsible for what I put out into the world, because it's going to give me anything that I rehearse, and that I'm conditioned to keep rehearsing. That's what I believe. I believe in its benevolence, even though I don't see it as Santa Claus. Like, I'm a good, here, give me a gift, right? Not at all. But I do believe that it is the source of all creativity, and that I get to be part of it, and that
Okay.
I will return to it when I'm done.
What is love?
Well, love is source. Okay. Love in this moment is the smell of a puppy's head. Breath. Like, puppy breath is love, right?
Hey,
Here, right? Sharing is love, and not people pleasing. I had to learn something that it really took me a long time to learn my codependency things that I didn't actually help when I was trying to help, to recognize too when I cannot help the struggling butterfly out of the cocoon because I think it's the right thing to do. So
hmm,
also, live and let live is love.
hmm,
Really acceptance, radical acceptance is love. And I mean, I guess hope is an aspect of love, and yeah, I think
okay.
love is the source of all of the cosmos.
If you had a chance to ask God or source one question, what would it be?
But I would like to learn how to be more fearless. So I think I would ask God, how could I trust you even more and not give in to the fear that the fear of that I don't want to just be always giving lip service to my
Yep.
faith, but I will doubt sometimes, like, how do I live with less of that? And
Hmm.
also, what was the other one? I would love to say, how could I heal my dog? She's not but no, that would be my private conversation with God, which I don't get the answers from. But
Fair enough.
yeah,
Fair enough.
yeah,
And what is the ultimate purpose of life?
to create. I really think to co-create, to be a partner with spirit and co-create a reality that is beneficial to others, not just for myself.
And where can people find out more about you and the amazing work you're doing in the world?
Just go to my website, ColetteBaron-Reid.com. We can give you a link. I
Hmm.
have a newsletter. I give away stuff for free all the time. I've got 19 Oracle card decks. I've got books. I have a new book coming out on the arts in the fall. My membership site, I do readings twice a month in there, but just come check it out. See if I'm your cup of tea. It's ColetteBaron-Reid.com.
And do you have any parting messages for the audience?
Yeah, give yourself a hug. Give each other a hall pass. We're doing this together, and just spend more time loving and less time judging, especially yourself.
Oof, especially yourself. Colette, thank you so much for this conversation. It was such a pleasure and honor speaking to you today, and I'm really truly hopeful that this conversation will help heal and bring some peace to people watching. So I appreciate
Yeah.
you and everything you're doing to awaken this planet. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey, and don't forget to subscribe.